just starting to prepare actually for our very first inside look today. We will be joined by several other trainers. I'm sorry I'm messing with this a little bit. How do I sound? Am I too loud? Well, perfect for over here. Too loud, too soft. Everyone good? Excellent. So what we're going to be doing here in just a few moments is actually a training session with our whales. Now what we're going to start with is actually a gating session. We do have 5 beluga whales here in this environment. We do actually have 3 separate pools available to us at any given time. So not only do we have this large carp pool that you see, excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat, but we also have medical pool in the back and a folding pool. So we can interchange all of our animals socially. And what we're all going to do is our trainers are all going to step down, pick up our animals, and send what animals that we're going to be working with out here in the front. All of the time, I will be talking to you and answering any kind of questions that you might have. I'm going to go over all of our animals, and then if you do have any questions, Kelly is in the gallery. She will probably give you a nice wave. There she is. I see myself waving in the reflection. But she's going to be in that far corner. So if you have any questions for me in the gallery there, you can go over and ask her this question. And if she can't answer, well, I know she can't answer them for you, but if you would like me to answer them for you too, also I am here available. Like I said, we do have 5 beluga whales, and right now they do have access to all 3 pools. I can actually hear them kind of squeaking in the back. Now, our oldest beluga whale's name is Ferdinand. He is 48 years old. We also have a 34-year-old female named Allua. And then we have a 16-year-old male named Klondike, and we have 2 8-year-old half-sisters named Pearl and Allua. And again, those are our youngest whales at 8 years old. The easiest way to tell the young whales from the older whales is not only a size difference, because Pearl is about 1,000 pounds, whereas Ferdinand and Klondike are about 2,000 pounds, so they're about double the size. Now there is a difference between sizes of males and females. So the males are going to be just a little bit bigger, ranging around from 2,000 to around 3,000 pounds, whereas females average out about 1,500 pounds at most. So all of these whales, and they all seem to have disappeared, and that's because I hear whistles in the back, so they're going to be coming back out. All of the whales that you see here, these beluga whales, are actually native to the Arctic. They like exceptionally cold water. Everybody always asks us how cold the water is that we have here in our environment. It is 55 degrees salt water. It is chilled down. One of the really nice things here about SeaWorld San Diego is that we don't have to make our own salt water. Because we live right off the bay, we're actually able to bring the water in from the bay. We clean it really, really well. If you had the opportunity to be at our inside look for our waterfall, you can go into more specifics. Here we go. We're joined by Denise and Allua. We're also joined by Mike and Nick, who have Ferdinand there and Klondike popping up in the middle. So, the water that we have here is actually straight into the bay. It's cleaned really well. We use it in our pools, and then if we ever need to discharge our water back out into the bay, we clean it again, and then we put it back in the bay. It is not a completely open system. We don't just freely exchange water, but we do have a nice advantage from that in our other SeaWorld parks, because making saltwater is not a lot of fun. So, introducing you face to face, this is Ferdinand, very closest to me, right there with Mike. He has a very unique vocalization. Coming around the corner there is Nick, and he is working with Allua, who is on the very far left-hand side. For you guys, your right-hand side, that Denise just pointed. She's waving hello to you right now. And then right in the middle is our teenage boy, our 16-year-old male who's working with Denise. And the way that you can tell him apart from everybody else is that he has a giant, giant head. So, as I was saying about the nice chilled water, beluga whales like cold water. They have underneath ice floes. That's their natural habitat, is they travel underneath the ice to find sport for all the food that they do eat. They do eat slow-moving fish and even some snails and things like that that don't move very fast. Because these whales are not built for speed, they are built to endure. They live in extremely cold, dark, and deep water. They look significantly different than any other whale or dolphin that you might have seen in the park today. Ferdinand actually just gave you a nice look at what I'm about to tell you right now. Beluga whales are actually about 40% blubber. So, and that is more than a normal dolphin or whale because, again, they live in water that is anywhere at or below freezing. So they have to find a way to stay warm. Their blubber layer is one of the ways that they do that. One of the other unique adaptations that beluga whales have is, has anyone noticed a dorsal fin on any of these whales? Can anyone see a dorsal fin anywhere on their bodies? Nope. You're right. They don't have a dorsal fin. They have what is called a dorsal ridge. Now, it's made of the same material that a dorsal fin is. It's very hard, it's a lot of cartilage, it's very hard. But if you live in the Arctic and you travel underneath ice, do you want to have a dorsal fin? No, you really don't. You're going to be bumping that thing off the ice floes. It's going to be really uncomfortable. It's going to be hard to surface. It makes life very challenging up in the Arctic if you have a dorsal fin. So they actually have the dorsal ridge, and it does serve a purpose. It is actually strong enough to break holes in thin sheets of ice so that they can create breathing holes for themselves. And it also does not get in the way. Also, dorsal fins are kind of used for heat exchange. So if you live in freezing water, you want to keep all that heat to yourself. You just don't want to exchange it out into the open environment. So those are two adaptations. Not only are they 40% blubber, but they don't have a dorsal fin, they have a dorsal ridge. One of the other adaptations that is really, really cool that beluga whales have unique to their species is that they are a cetacean that can swim backwards. And hopefully in just a few moments, one of our 3 whales here will demonstrate these swimming backwards. If you take a look at Nick, he's going to ask Allua to do it. Now, the reason for that is, again, they're traveling underneath ice floes. They can get themselves into some pretty tight spots. What are you going to do if you can't turn around and your breathing hole's behind you? You swim backwards, and that's exactly what Allua is doing right there. You can see her dump her peduncle, which is that space between her dorsal ridge and her tail flukes, and scoop it and shrimp, just like as she's moving backwards, that's how she's doing that. So that's a very other unique adaptation that our whales have here. And it is very helpful in the environment that they live in. So I'm going to take a brief moment here to have anybody ask me any of those questions that you might have about our whales. I can actually hear the overlook over here, but if anybody in the gallery has any questions for me, please feel free to take a moment and ask Kelly, or just yell them out, raise your hand and yell them out to me. Anyone have any questions? You have a question. What's your question?
How deep can they dive?
How deep can they dive? They actually dive several hundred feet down. So quite deep to find their fish and their food. Actually, Suzanne over here just gave me a record.
No, that's a Navy dive.
A Navy dive is 1,200 feet, so that's as deep as they've ever been known to go. That's not a typical dive for them to find their food. Pretty surface, yeah.
Jamie, somebody wanted to know how fast they can swim.
Well, these guys are not super fast at all. They like to think they are. They are not. They swim at most about 12 miles an hour. They're not very fast-moving animals at all. But they're super cute and super squishy. I have another question over here. They hold their breath for about 20 minutes. And they'll hold that's about their top level, so they won't go any further than they can dive at 20 minutes. Yeah, good question.
Jamie, what kind of food do our whales eat?
I have the peanut gallery over here saying dead fish. Yes, they are right. They are correct here. They actually have fish that has been frozen. It is restaurant quality fish. Now the fish that we feed, we do feed a variety of fish. We feed about 5 different kinds of fish currently. Thank you for the sound effects there, Mr. Ferdinand. We feed herring, sardines, cable, and squid. On occasion, mackerel and, let's see, sometimes some man-hate and Peruvian smelt. So they eat a variety of food. And the reason that we do that is because we don't want them to have, they all have favorites. We all have our favorite food, but we want to make sure that they have a nice, well-rounded diet so that they don't eat a whole bunch of really fatty fish and then they don't like their vegetable fish. So we always keep it a nice variety. It's a good question.
Jamie, someone else was curious if they make noises similar to other whales and dolphins.
Well, beluga whales are known as the canaries of the sea. They do have the same kind of hearing frequencies as the other whales and dolphins do. However, you'll notice our beluga whales are pretty chatty animals, and the way that they actually make those sounds is from their blowholes. There's an air sac right on the inside of their blowholes, just like that. And it's kind of like a kid playing with a balloon. They can manipulate all of those sounds, and it's actually part of their echolocation. What they actually utilize that for is they'll take that sound, they'll send it out through the open water, and then it will bounce back of whatever's out there, and they receive it in their lower jaw, and that is actually how they're able to use their echolocation. And even if they can't see very well, they can interpret their environment, whatever's in it. Now, you'll notice that they all kind of sound a little bit differently. Each whale and dolphin has kind of their own voice. They have their own signature whistle, which means they do make a vocalization that seems to be specific to them or their family group. But all of our whales and dolphins do sound very different. You heard Ferdinand earlier. To me, he kind of sounds like a duck quacking. You heard Klondike just a few moments ago. His is much more higher pitched, but I think Allua takes the cake on it as well as she is. That's her signature whistle right there. So she does sound a lot like a seagull. Yeah, that's definitely true. He does have a unique shaped head there. So his things probably sound a little bit different because of that. Very good questions. What's your question? Yeah, he's very loud, so what's that? I actually doesn't. Do any of you guys know exactly how far their echolocation can travel? That's a really good question.
Like 3 times farther in the water than the air.
Okay. So 3 times further in the water than on land. So, or through the air. So 3 times further in the water than what you would hear on just from you and me talking or yelling across the way. So I don't actually have an exact number, but that's a very good question. I'm actually going to find that out if I can.
Different tones go different distances, like sperm whales and humpback whales. The males can be heard for miles and miles.
So what Suzanne, for those of you that are in the gallery and can't quite hear her, what she's talking about is the different tones, such as humpback whales or sperm whales that have those really deep kind of booming noises, can be heard for, did you say hundreds of miles?
Miles and miles.
Miles and miles, so not hundreds of miles, but miles and miles. I want to make sure I got that right. So I will have to find out the answer to that question, but it's a very good one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the individual whales that we see here in front of us. Now, the first whale that we have here is Ferdinand. If you're just approaching us now, he is our oldest whale. He is 48 years young. Now, that doesn't sound so impressive to some of us. However, an average life expectancy for whales and dolphins tends to be 25 to 35 years old. So he has already far exceeded life expectancy at 48 years young. Now, he does really have the good life here. He originally came to us from Germany. He came to us from about 15 years ago. Back in the day, Ferdinand used to do a show with some other dolphins in his homeland of Germany. But as those animals started to age and pass along, we were contacted because we are one of the few facilities that actually do have beluga whales. And they knew we had a very steady family group here. And we were offered the opportunity to give Ferdinand a home, which of course we jumped at. And now he's just our sweet little old man whale. He's the grandpa of the group. He just kind of hangs out. He does our interaction programs, and he does enjoy meeting people. Our next oldest whale across the way with Nick is Allua. She is 34 years young, and she is in charge of all that you survey. She is our matriarch. Now, Ferdinand here weighs about 2,000 pounds. Allua weighs about 1,300 pounds. I know, Klondike. I'm going to introduce you in a second. He's our attention-seeking whale. Allua here does rule the roost. She keeps all the kids in line. She makes sure that the environment is how she likes it. So she's a very good girl. One thing that is unique to Allua, she originally came to us from Vancouver. She's been an auntie whale, which means she's been alongside of other whales that have given birth and actually assisted in raising other calves. However, Allua had an opportunity here to help us raise our calf. And I'm going to stop there right a second. You're going to see exactly how high a beluga whale can jump out of the water. This is pretty impressive. Hey, and 40% blubber at 2,000 pounds. That's pretty impressive. Well done, Klondike. Well done. So, about 8 years ago, distinguishing looking because she's our gray whale. When beluga whales are born, they're actually born dark gray, and that's part of their camouflage. They want to look like a shadow underneath mom. When Pearl was born, her mother did not know even the first have any idea what to do with her. So we actually did have to take Pearl for a short amount of time to start hand-raising her, which means we had to give her a man-made formula to help get her to gain weight and to eat and to make sure that she was going to grow properly. Again, her mom just did not know what to do, so what we started doing was we introduced her to Allua over there. And because Allua already has that natural mothering instinct, she actually was able to take Pearl and raise her. Now, one thing that's really interesting that we learned from Allua is that beluga whales can spontaneously lactate. Now, Allua has never had her very own calf, but because when we started putting her with Pearl, she actually started producing milk. So we no longer had to give Pearl man-made milk or formula, which we actually make a pretty good recipe, but we'd always rather have natural milk if we can. So she's actually the animal and the mother to Pearl, or the surrogate mother, as we like to call her. But she's helped us out significantly with that, and she's a great, great whale. She's a lot of fun. But last and not least, most certainly, we do have the very, very loud Klondike over there. He is our heaviest whale. He is about 2,100 pounds, depending on his time of year. He is our 16-year-old boy. He is, in every sense of the word, a 16-year-old boy. He has no idea that he is a 2,000-pound whale. He enjoys meeting people, but he also enjoys crawling into their laps, too, which is kind of fun when he's really little and not so much when he's 2,000 pounds. Here, here's the next impressive behavior. Here we go. It's a vertical spin. Yay! He does like to jump, he does like to move, and he just likes to go barreling through everything that he can possibly think of. But he is a lot of fun. I always like to joke around and say that he is a dolphin trapped in a beluga whale's body because that is his personality. He's very energetic, he's very hyper, and he likes to stay on the move. Whereas other belugas are not quite as boisterous as he is. He is a little bit unique to us. All right, so now that I've talked a lot about our adaptations, not only the blubber, but the dorsal ridge, I've introduced you to our 3 adults here out in this main pool. Answered a few questions. Does anybody else have any other questions for me before we actually part ways? Woo! And that's Allua's bow. Very nice.
Jamie, somebody wanted to know why beluga whales are white.
Why are beluga whales white? That's actually a good adaptation here. So as I said, beluga whales when they're born are born dark gray. As they get older, they get lighter and lighter and lighter. They actually reach their full whiteness about 10 to 12 years old. The reason for that is when you're young, you want to be hidden underneath your mother, so that's why you look like a shadow. As you get older, if you live amongst the ice, you want to be looking like a sheet of ice or an ice floe because they are preyed upon. Beluga whales are a little bit of chickens because they are a food source for not only killer whales but also polar bears. A full-grown adult male polar bear could actually pull Ferdinand out of the water. So they want to stay, and since they're not very fast moving, they want to stay as camouflaged as possible. That is why they are actually white whales. Good question. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, Jamie, I got one more. Hold on.
Okay, I'll come back to you, I promise.
We were curious if they're endangered.
They are not currently endangered. However, there are family groups that are being threatened, and the biggest threat is because of their environment. Their environment is being polluted, and the fish, they're not able to find as much fish as most of the family units need to find to survive. To give you an idea, an animal the size of Ferdinand right now is eating about 55 pounds of fish a day to maintain a healthy weight. Now, as they're a little bit smaller, they eat a little bit less. Like our 8-year-old girls that are about 1,000 and about 1,400 pounds are eating about 30 pounds of food a day. But if you're out in the open ocean and you're an animal the size of Ferdinand and sometimes they can't even get bigger, you need to find that amount of food to just survive and maintain weight a day. So that's actually what they're finding most threatening. And in fact, they've recently found a family group that has been traveling up into freshwater and eating freshwater fish, which is pretty unusual for beluga whales to do. So that is their current struggle, but as a whole, the species is not endangered yet, but their environment is not doing very well. So everybody turn off your lights, turn off your engines, and do anything that you can to help the ice from stopping melting so much. So that would be helpful too. What was your question?
Where did you get Klondike from?
Where did we get Klondike from? Canada, actually. Yeah. So that's a good question. Alrighty, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on our inside look. I will be seeing you here again at 3 o'clock. And again, enjoy the rest of your day here at SeaWorld. Bye-bye.